Welcome back to ZenSummer. Today we're going to be doing Topic Tuesday, and our topic today is toxic relationships. What does it mean? How do you know you're in one? And are the only kinds of toxic relationships love relationships? Well, the answer to that very first that question right there is no. Toxic relationships can include everything from love relationships to friends to families to even acquaintances. And there's so many different forms of a relationship being toxic that really we won't be able to cover all of it today. But I have made some lists of things that you can look for. So, one of the first things that I now look for that I didn't used to is someone who's putting in less effort into the relationship than I am. So many of us will get into a relationship and we want to hold that relationship. We want to make sure that person is happy. We want to make sure that they stay with us or that they keep choosing us, whether this is a friendship or a love relationship or even family, that we will bend over backwards. We will put in all of that effort. We'll be the one making all the phone calls. We'll be the one making sure we answer every text or every message. We'll be the one that reaches out and says, "Oh my goodness, how are you doing?" But they don't. They don't reach out. They don't call you. They may text you back or message you back, but they do it in their time. Now, this can be one of two ways. Either the relationship is toxic, or you have been in a toxic relationship where this was a requirement for you, and so it's become habit for you. And you're putting in that extra effort when you should be only putting in the same effort you're seeing in return. If that person texts you back in their time, text them back in your time. If that person calls you once a month, call them once a month. Don't be the one loaning them or giving them gifts and money and whatever else and not getting that back in return. So next on our list is if someone puts you down, belittles you, or calls you names. This is basically abuse. It is verbal, emotional abuse, and that is toxic. Now, again, this can be a lover, this can be a family member, this can be a friend, or it may be someone that you don't consider in any of those categories. You just kind of know them, an acquaintance or someone that you're friendly with. But if that's the behavior that you're seeing out of them, that's toxic. If it's a behavior you're displaying toward them, then you're the one being toxic. If they expect you to always be there for them, to always be able to do for them, to always be able to answer the phone for them, to always be able to message them right back. See, this is where we go into again, you can be the toxic one, but that same expectation doesn't apply to them. That could be toxic. Generally, you're going to see at least two or more of these in a toxic relationship, although there are certain things like putting you down, belittling you, boy, I couldn't get that word out, or name calling that are all by themselves toxic, because that's considered abuse. So another one could be someone who doesn't support your dreams or celebrate your successes, but they expect you to support their dreams and celebrate their successes. This comes in the category of they don't hear you. They're very focused on themselves. And while they may be quiet while you're talking, they're thinking about what it is they want to share with you. And instead of helping you, being there for you, celebrating your successes, giving you support, supporting your dreams, cheering you on, when you're done talking, they start telling you about all their stuff. And then if you don't respond to what they said, they get upset. That might be toxic. If you have a friend, a loved one, or a close relationship that is always the victim, there's always something wrong. There's always, the sky is always falling. Chicken Little is your friend. I hope you all know who Chicken Little is. The sky is falling every time you talk to them. And they always need you to be that shoulder. Always. That might be toxic. It's certainly going to drain you. And anything that drains you is toxic. If your friend, family member, or loved one gets angry and snaps in order to stop a conversation that they don't want to have, often, not once in a while, but often, that might be toxic. If your friend, loved one, or close personal relationship, lover, always blames everyone else, and oftentimes that's you, that might be toxic. That's that person who can never be wrong, so you must be. If they gossip to you about everyone else, if they've always got something, maybe not negative, but right on that borderline of negative to say, if they've always got a story to tell you about someone else's life, it's possibly toxic. Because if they'll do it with you, they'll do it about you. In general, if it drains you or makes you feel bad, sad, depressed, it's probably toxic. If you can't say no because you're worried about their reaction, they might get angry, they might do harm to themselves, they might, I don't know, fall down and have a temper tantrum, that's probably toxic. You should always feel comfortable being able to make a choice, and you should always feel like your friend will understand, or your lover or your family will understand if you can't always say yes. And I don't mean say no all the time, because as someone who says no all the time, especially if you're the person helping them and they're not helping you ever, that's probably toxic too. But if you don't feel like you can say no, if you don't have that right to say no, that might be toxic. If you don't feel supported, accepted for who you are, loved for who you are, or you don't feel like you can be yourself with that person, it's probably toxic. If you fear the repercussions of anything you do, of, I don't know, washing the dishes, not washing the dishes, you fear the repercussions for not taking them to the store, you fear the repercussions for not going to their birthday party. If you fear the repercussions, you fear how the backlash that you may be subjected to for any action you take, if you have to even think about that, the relationship might be toxic. If they say, oh, absolutely, sure, go ahead, and then after you do it, they throw a big hissy fit, that might be toxic. If you find yourself always apologizing, and maybe you're always apologizing simply to get them to calm down so that you can either move forward or continue a conversation, or, I don't know, have not a terrible day, or you just simply find yourself always apologizing because you're afraid of how they're going to react, that might be toxic. If they make up stories or tell little lies a lot, that person might be toxic. So I know I didn't cover every possibility, because there's lots of ways to be toxic. There's small, little, minor toxic things, and then there's great big toxic things. There's abuse, and I haven't gotten into that because I am going to do a whole separate video on abuse, and abuse has its own level of toxicity. Some of these things will be covered again when I do my Metaphysical Monday on energy vampires, which I'll do in a few weeks. And then there are a whole different levels of toxicity to energy vampires that was not covered here. So be aware that this is just some of a list. But if you are feeling drained, or if it's making you feel bad, or if it's making you feel sad, or if it's making you feel like you can't be who you are, do a little more research, or stay with me, subscribe to the channel, watch some of the next upcoming videos that we'll be doing, and figure out if this is toxic. Start questioning things in your mind. Ask yourself, why is this person in my life? Why do I feel it's important to handle things this way with this person? Am I overreacting, or are they making me feel like I'm overreacting? That's a whole nother topic, and that's gaslighting, and we will be talking about that at some point too. Toxic relationships can do a lot of damage in your life. They can make you feel small. They can take away your self-esteem. They can bring on depression. They can bring on a slew of medical and mental health issues. Time to clean up, folks. You know, I see all these health coaches and other coaches talking about decluttering your life, and what they mean, what they're generally talking about anyway, is decluttering the horrid mess that was my living room. Thank you to my daughter for decluttering that, or your closet, or your wardrobe, or your cupboards, or decluttering any of that, or your drawers. Oh heavens, get into your junk drawer and try and declutter that. That'll be fun. But there's also a decluttering that comes with decluttering the toxicity out of your life. And maybe this week, one of the things that you could do is take a look at your social media. Look at 3 people on your social media who bring you down, who make you feel drained, who make you feel bad, who are in some way, maybe they're putting you down, maybe they name call, in some way making you feel small. And if they're on there, if you find them, maybe it's time to think about at least decluttering a little bit on that. Declutter your social media. Declutter your cell phone. Get rid of phone numbers that you are not using anymore, or people that you don't want to answer. Just block their number and then delete it. Stop answering for people who are making you feel like you're less. You are not less. And it's those toxic relationships making you feel that way. You don't always have to say yes. You have a right to choose. You don't need to feel small. You don't have to listen to the gossip. You don't have to be the one helping the victim every time. Do you have a victim in your life? I think we all have had one, if we don't have one now. You know who I mean. That person whose anger makes you crazy. Maybe it's time to think about taking a few steps back and setting some boundaries. And that's another thing we're going to talk about on some of these videos, is boundary setting. We're terrible at it, aren't we? Setting boundaries. I am almost 50 years old. I am just learning to set some of my boundaries when it comes to friendships. It's a hard thing to do, but for my health and sanity, sometimes I have to do it, and so do you. All right, I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing a book recommendation and telling you a little bit about this book that I am so excited about. And then Sunday we'll be doing a fun little exercise. So I'll see you soon.